Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'm hoping you guys are in the right room. This is for Dragnet, the social engineering framework. So my name is Truman Kain. I work at a company called Tavora doing pen testing, internal, external, mobile, web app, that type of thing. And I decided to make this social engineering framework when I had just gotten started and I was thrown onto a phishing engagement. And I asked if we had any information on who we had exploited from this company that we had previously run an engagement against, and started asking questions and thinking, there should be details on what the job title is of the person that we're going to be calling next, whether they converted, what pretext we use, that type of thing. So kind of came out of a need, morphed into something much bigger as I started submitting to different conferences and questions started coming back, and I started thinking, what is the full potential of what a really strong social engineering framework with a GUI could include. So if you didn't read the abstract, essentially, long story short, social engineering conversions are going to increase when you use this framework. I consider conversions to be any way that you're exploiting someone during a social engineering engagement. That could be credential capture, getting a payload downloaded and executed, gaining access to a building, being able to talk to someone face to face and knowing what to say or what pretext to use that way, or the main one, which is getting someone to open the email or getting someone to give you information over the phone that they shouldn't. That's what I consider to be a conversion. So moving forward, I'll just say that anything I'm going to talk about during this presentation, you may see it differently, or maybe you'll see it the same way. These are just my insights from my brief time in InfoSec. So just want to get that disclaimer out of the way right off the bat. So I'm going to get to how the framework works in just a minute, but first I want to talk about the current states of OSINT, analytics, and social engineering engagements, and just kind of brush over those, and we can get to checking out a demo. So when I think of OSINT, I think manual, repetitive, and fleeting and automated. When I talk about OSINT, I think of high quality, reliable data that I'm collecting on a target. The collection process usually ends up being manual because, if you think of a successful spear phishing attack, it's hard to, a true spear phishing attack is really targeting an individual. So to be able to say that we could fully automate that is a stretch. The opposite of that is so that essentially is going to mean that there's going to be some form of manual OSINT or OSINT gathering going on. You're going to want to verify that the information you're getting is accurate, and you're going to want to tailor the attack as you learn more about your target with that goal of increasing conversions, obviously. So aside from minor variations, though, you might find that this manual process is extremely repetitive. Although you might change up a few little things here and there, you're essentially doing the same thing, going and finding that info wherever it is that you may find it, verifying it, adding it into your attack vector, and kind of building this attack towards this person that you're spear phishing. So you'd think it's manual, but it's repetitive. Why can't I automate it? So usually you can script that into something, but then you end up with companies or websites changing their templating. So everything you just did, sorry, I have to get some more. Everything you just did kind of goes to waste, and you have to start over. With that said, every star on GitHub that Dragnet gets will be an hour that I spend refactoring the LinkedIn OSINT scraping code. So that's cheap labor for you guys. LinkedIn, again, this is an educational-only tool, is extremely aggressive against any form of scraping. So that's kind of a tough one. But let's get more into analytics and why I feel that analytics and the data that's out there is so important. So essentially, big data and analytics here are going to be used interchangeably. Regardless of what a company does or say they do, if you look at the companies with the biggest online presence, Google, Facebook, Amazon, if you were to take away the analytics, I feel that they would not be able to survive. You might not agree, but I believe that when you're a company that big, you can't act on intuition. You can't just go to a product guy and say, what do we do next? You can try, and at the end of the day, especially with the public companies, all the decisions are driven by analytics because the smallest decisions can make a difference in the amount of money or the stock price or the market cap, and there are just too many people involved to take a chance, and that's why everyone turns to the data that's out there. An example would be the way that Facebook is constantly split testing thousands of different versions of the site at any one time, and then pushing the highest conversion, or the new features that have the highest conversion rates. So here's a statistic from Jeff Bezos. I'm not going to read it in the Jeff Bezos voice. 3 years ago, I was working at a quantitative hedge fund when I came across a startling statistic. And that statistic showed how rapidly consumers were moving online. So that's what prompted him to leave the hedge fund he was working at and start Amazon. So he based his decision to leave what I imagine was a job that he enjoyed to go start something new. And it's because so many people were moving online. And when this happened, so he spent his time just looking at statistics. So imagine this playground that he saw, 20, 30 years into the future, whatever it may be that he's looking towards now, with machine learning and everything, that is created when you have all these people moving online. So it's also the same reason that we are able to get things delivered the day that we order them. So we have him to thank for that. So I'm imagining at this point you guys are sold. You're gonna go out. You're gonna start the next Amazon, or not. Okay. So for those of you who take Jeff's quote to heart, the data's already out there. Most of you guys, I would imagine, have looked at analytics dashboards, whether it be looking at graphs or raw data formulated into a visual format with Splunk, Google Analytics, whatever it may be, whatever you happen to be using it for. The data is already out there. It can be used for things other than starting or growing businesses like social engineering. So that's the good part, is that if you've sent phishing emails, if you have notes on who converted in their email address, that's enough to get started. And really, that's the barrier to entry with Dragnet, is using that prior conversion data. But we'll get to that in a second. So when I think of social engineering engagements, I think you get to choose one of these three here: effective, quick, or inexpensive. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. The companies with the big budgets are the only ones that are getting social engineering pen testing. Maybe an edge case would be a company that knows how important their IP is, or knows how targeted they will be with social engineering attacks. So they're willing to pay a lot more relatively than other companies their size. But regardless, I feel that this needs to change. Fortune 5,000 companies are already being targeted en masse, and I believe that small businesses in certain sectors and industries are quickly becoming the next big focus, because the data they hold is still just as important as the data that big companies hold. Everyone using these smaller products, because of the integrations in things like Facebook and Facebook log in with Google, everyone just automatically assumes, oh, okay, it's secure, it's easy to log in. They think that the same level of scrutiny or the same level of testing is going on behind the scenes to make sure things are secure. That's not the case. In addition, these companies that are smaller might have never even given security or pen testing a thought, so that's really not good. The next step of this whole framework is turning it more towards the consumer, because I feel that the habits that consumers have, the privacy habits, security habits, whatever they may be, carry over into the workplace. So I'm hoping that in the future we can gamify and Facebookify this whole thing and get people to maybe enter into the whole social engineering engagements from an individual standpoint, because I think that's important to carry those over into the workplace. I just needed to throw Zuck in here somewhere. So I know I've depressed you guys, but we're going to get to Dragnet now. So using this framework, OSINT, automation, to an extent, machine learning are going to be handled. And this is going to be demonstrated shortly. I also want to say this is open source. Through these past couple months, I've been building on this tool and getting an initial release out, and just this morning posted finally a version of the README for version 0.1. That was a challenge to get that out there, but it's open source. It's going to continue to be open source. I'm not one of those people who is going to urge you to put in a pull request. If you have questions, comments, ideas, feature requests, whatever it may be, start an issue on there, and if people think it's a good idea, I'll implement that as well. So here's the stack. TensorFlow for machine learning, Firebase for a NoSQL database backend, Vue.js for the front end. Also uses things like Node and Express for the endpoint, Asterisk for voice over IP. And there may be better ways to do all this stuff. There's definitely better ways to do the machine learning. It's something I'm just getting up to speed with. So again, if you have any ideas, feel free to let me know. So for Dragnet OSINT, you're going to import your targets and keep your hands near the wheel. I'll explain what this means. So, well, I'm going to give you a high-level overview in the next slide, but essentially, when you're importing a target, say it's a CSV with one column of email addresses and the other column with the names of those corresponding email addresses, OSINT is going to begin. Right now, we only have a integration setting things up with LinkedIn. We also have Clearbit that makes things a little bit easier so that you don't have to essentially break the law if you don't feel like it, which you should never do. So once OSINT begins, sometimes you're going to get people at certain big companies that have the same name and potentially the same job title if you're adding an extra third column with job title. So let's say, the same company, same name, something's going to pop up on Dragnet. It's going to say, which person do you mean? Because if you choose the wrong person or OSINT begins on the wrong person and they convert on the email that you sent them, it's going to skew the model that you're training. That's why you keep your hands near the wheel so that you can choose who you want to move forward with the OSINT on. That way, the model is not going to get skewed if this person converts. So I'm still trying to fully understand this whole thing. Machine learning, again, is new to me, but it's something that I feel is extremely important. I think it's going to get implemented in just about everything, including and definitely security. Essentially, you're starting with data, prior conversion data. So let's just say you've sent out 1,000, 2,000 phishing emails. You have the email address of who you sent the email to, and you have the name of the template that you used. Amazon, unusual login detected, whatever it may be. So you have a bunch of these, and you import them into Dragnet. And OSINT begins on these targets that you've already, you have a third column that has how they converted a score, 0 to 1. 0 would be they reported it, 1 would be they downloaded a payload, whatever it may be. So in between might be they open the email, they click the link, they visit a landing page. So you have a result, you have the template that you sent, and you have the name or a way to identify the target. OSINT begins on these targets. We start collecting data points about them. Maybe it's the school they went to, their major, their job title, their company, whatever it may be. In the future, this is you'll be able to get, double, triple, quadruple the amount of data points. So we're just getting started, and you already are able to get dozens. We have the template that we sent them, and we have tags assigned to that template. So maybe Amazon unusual login detected would be Amazon, shopping, urgency, security, those potential tags. And each template that you bring in, you can tag differently. So now using this data, we can add in new targets, and when we add in these new targets for another engagement, we're collecting data points about them, and then we're correlating the similar data points that they hold to find out which template we should send them that they have the highest chance of converting for, based on that previous conversion data. So that's essentially how it works in a nutshell. And this is this diagram here just shows you the probability of pwn, essentially, is what we're trying to get for each template. And then we're going to suggest that you use the template with the highest probability of pwn. So you're going to tag your templates, import your prior conversion data, and then say your prayers. So we're going to check out a demo. So here we have a dashboard where we can see all of our engagements. We got Bream Hall, Hooley, and Pied Piper. Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. Thank you for telling me that would have just not been good. It's like 6 minutes. Okay. Thanks again. So we have, I'm going to have to talk here. So we have an engagement dashboard. And we have Bream Hall, Hooley, and Pied Piper. And we can sort by upcoming, in progress, or completed for the engagements. And so we're going to start a new engagement. And we are going to choose Pied Piper. And we're going to set the date of the engagement and the type of engagement. For this one, we're doing phishing and vishing. We're going to choose a date to start and end the engagement. And we can see that we have our previous targets from a earlier engagement with Pied Piper that show up. And we can also drag in some new targets, and that's what we're going to do now. The list populates, and we can choose for each target, do we want to test them at all? Do we want to only test them for phishing or vishing? So we're going to get rid of a few here. Jared, I know, from memory. Scared of that guy. We're going to get rid of Big Head, too easy. And we're going to change a few to just send the emails. We're not going to be doing calls on just a few of these guys. And girls. And once we get started with the engagement, we will see that OSINT begins. So you can see right off the bat that we already have a model pre-trained for some of these people because OSINT has already ran during the first engagement for them. So once the model is trained, which it's going to be retrained each time there's a conversion, each time someone opens an email, that you could have multiple engagements running, and each time someone, no matter what the engagement is, opens an email, whatever it may be, clicks a link, adds credentials, the model's going to be retrained so that you're always getting the most accurate suggestion for your targets that have not been sent something yet. So we can see specific templates are being suggested to different people. I know there's something about a Tesla for Dinesh, something about crypto for Guilfoyle. But we have an action required on Jin Yang, so we'll take a look and see what that action required is. So we see this is what I meant by hands near the wheel. Which one's Jin Yang? We're going to choose. At this point, you could say cancel, and nothing's going to happen as far as training the model. You could maybe make a call. If you happen to know who the right Jin Yang is, you could choose. And so we're going to choose. And we see that the suggestion is made for him as well for a loan offer. So we can launch our engagement, and we'll see that some of the emails are sent right away, and some of the emails are scheduled, depending on whether or not you said to send something at a certain time. But we also see at the top right, Jin Yang has already opened that email. And because it's an email that's linked with a call, which is something that you can do, sometimes you want to follow up with a call right after an email is open, you can do that. So we have our pop-up here, and we're going to place this call. So we're sent into the specific attack, where we can see a script that we have that's got tokens during creation that we see changed over. We have a mini dossier on the right with some information about Jin Yang that we've gathered, and we have a mini attack log or an attack log specifically for this attack. It's not for the whole engagement or anything like that. There's also a notes section, and we can place the call whenever we're ready. So when we place the call, it's going to call my attack phone that I've set during template creation, and then once I pick up, it's going to call our target with the mask number that we also set when we were setting up the template. So I pick up, and we make the call. So apparently he was onto us. He knew that this was a phishing call, test. So we're going to say not vuln for the result. And as soon as we set that result, the recording is uploaded if you have permission to record these calls, which you'll be able to set when you're first setting up the client. You can also play back the recording. I'm not close enough to just skip here. But that's going to be pretty instantaneous depending on how long the call is.
You are ugly.
And so this is something that you'll be able to go back to later on, say for client training, for internal training, to prove that someone was or was not vuln, whatever it may be. So we can head back to our engagement, and we can see that we know that Jin Yang's not vuln, but we also do have creds captured for an email that we sent to Monica. So if we click on that, we can see that the email that was sent to her was a LinkedIn friend request from Gavin Belson. We can see the mini dossier again on the right. We can see an attack log that shows everything from sending the email or adding her to the engagement or the template that we decided to suggest showing up there, all the way to credits captured. Now, if we click in the email, we can see the landing page is not LinkedIn, it is SAINTCON. So this is the site that she went to, and that's where she entered the creds. This is all set up with Firebase on the back end to collect those credentials. If we click through to her main dossier, we can see a kind of a bigger view of the information that we've gathered about her. But on the right, we don't see an attack log, we see a log for this entire target. When she was added to a client, when she was brought in, each time that she's had an attack tried against her, and whether the result of that attack, the suggested templates on the top right. And over time, those are going to change. Sometimes you don't want to send someone the same thing over and over. Sometimes you do. And so that's essentially the dossier area. And we have like a little fingerprint icon for things that were gathered during OSINT, and a check mark for things that you added in yourself. So that's the engagement screen, and that essentially is a very small snapshot of what the Dragnet framework is at this point. So that's really it for now. What's next would be things that I'm kind of interested in focusing on would be ringless voicemail drops, something I think would be really cool, and something that we'll have to get inbound calling set up for. So I just have to take a little bit of time to set that up. Individual targeting, so that you don't have to always set things up under a company, so that when you are hired and have permission to target an individual, that might be a little bit easier. Distributed phishing, which again would kind of just take more setup on the VoIP end to have a team set up to receive these calls and place these calls, that type of thing. Native mobile, I think, would be awesome. Probably would require a license, a developer license from Apple, because I don't see them allowing this into the App Store at this point. And your request here is the most important one. Again, if you post issues, if people think it's a good idea, I will implement just about any feature request that you guys have. If there are any questions, please let me know. I know we just have a few more minutes here, and we can follow up outside if we need to. You can find a link to the GitHub here, threat.tabora.com/dragnet, and it's being updated every day, so check back. Even later today, there are going to be some updates around cron jobs and the scheduling of emails to be sent. So thanks a lot, guys. Thanks. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hand. Otherwise, good to go. Thank you. Someone asked where I was